We have Sarah Moore, which is a conservation agronomist on staff, and we're one of the few co-ops in the country that has this opportunity. So, Sarah, what does a conservation agronomist mean to a grower like Dan?
So I can do a couple different things, always looking to help you take the next step in your operation to make it more sustainable, both environmentally and economically. So trying to find the areas on your farm where maybe you're not making money and a conservation practice might be more helpful, or in today's case, talking about cover crops and what might work best in your rotation. And just sort of talking through those things. Because it sounds like you've already looked through a lot of them and you don't like them. So we'll see if we can come up with something that you do like.
Okay.
So, what's your goal, Dan?
Yeah.
Probably erosion is one of the goals. Building organic matter is probably second, and just environmentally doing the right thing as far as nutrients and what have you. And we want to build our farm for the future generation. My son will be taking over the operation, and that's what he wants to do. He has a son. We hope he does the same thing, and so we want to head in that direction. And cover crops, no-till and cover crops are part of the plan. We've been no-tilling for quite some time, so we've already been doing that. We have a 750 John Deere no-till drill that we've been drilling soybeans and wheat for quite a few years. And we have an older John Deere 7000 planter that is somewhat set up for no-till, but not completely. Doesn't do the best job with a lot of residue, and that's one thing that we're trying to do. We're trying to have cover crops without a lot of residue that we can't deal with our equipment.
Gotcha.
Kind of one of the challenges, I guess, for us right now. So.
Yeah, that's kind of a double-edged sword. If you want to build organic matter, but you can't have too much biomass.
Well, a good example, last year we had soybean stubble, and they didn't come off as early as they should have, but it was mid-October when we took them off, and we went with Lee found some peas for us, and then oats, and we did a peas and oats cover on that, and the oats was a nice stand, and the peas came well, and believe it or not, both of them made it through the winter, and when in the spring we still had cover.
Yeah. So you were asking me the other day about what cover crops, what ideas of different cover crops. So the specific instance you were asking about, describe that.
Well, most of the cover crops we're good with. We want something that we can kill in the spring before planting. But my son is not a real fan of winter rye. I personally like winter rye, and about everybody in the cover crop business, that's their favorite. And I do some custom planting also, and he saw a couple examples in the last couple of years where the rye had gotten out of hand. It was taller than the tractor, and the beans still did quite well, but it scared him to death. And so now he wants to avoid winter rye. Now that once you take that out of the equation for cover crops, well, it gets a little more difficult to have to get that residue that you can handle. My 750 drill does a fabulous job in rye. It does really well. I've never tried the corn planter in it, but so that's where we are right now. Probably legumes. Looking at legumes, and we do a wheat, soybeans, corn, and soybeans rotation, a 4-year rotation. A couple of those are fairly easy. The wheat after the soybeans, don't have to worry about any cover there. But it seems like the beans after wheat seems to be the most challenging for us. And dealing with that, the wheat straw in that stubble seems to be a little more difficult. But it gives you the best opportunity to get a good cover going, because you have all summer to get something going if you want to go with radishes or something like that. So that's what I'm hoping that you can help me with is
Me too.
and get us come up with something that would be agreeable both to my son and I, and work with our equipment,
Yeah.
fit into our program.
So let me just make sure I followed you. You're looking for something after your wheat going into soybean? Or
That, and also I guess the big one would be corn. Just our corn crop right now, that's going to go to soybeans next year, and we're going to do an aerial application. And so in that area, the kind of the obvious thing would be some rye in that mix, but
Yep.
obviously I have trouble with the rye, and so where do we go from there?
the next step I would think would be winter triticale, which is sort of a mix genetically with rye and wheat. And it's smaller, it's usually easier to control, but it also has winter hardiness. So you're not gonna get quite as much biomass from that. And it also, I don't know if you have any livestock or do any haying or anything like that.
We did for years,
But-
but we don't anymore. Yes.
But it is more preferable as a forage
Okay.
if you were looking to do that.
Okay.
Works as a cover crop too, though.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Now, at what rate would you want that in the as far as in the mix, and what else would you what else would you put into that mix?
For corn into soy, I would include a winter annual legume. Depends what you like. You could do winter peas. You could do a red clover. There are a couple other clovers that are also winter hardy, but they do have a lot of biomass, which is not really what you're looking for.
Okay.
So I think maybe a pea or a red clover, or maybe even a vetch would be okay.
Okay. I've been looking at the vetch.
Why do we want a legume going into soybeans?
Because it's been shown that soybeans do well having a little boost of nitrogen when they're planted before they can get their own nodules established. And just that little bit from having a leguminous cover crop has been helpful. So it's not as, a lot of times if you put a starter fertilizer in with soybean, they don't love that. So this is just enough and it's spread out enough.
So we're looking at triticale, we're looking at maybe the crimson clover and the hairy vetch would be the three. What else might you, for multiple species, what else would you may put in there?
I would love to include a brassica as well. So those are anything in the mustard family. So a rape or a tillage radish is really good, especially if you're no-till, because it really helps break up compaction.
How about killing it in the spring? Terminating, I shouldn't use that word. Killing it in the spring.
So the tillage radish is a winter kill. It will die off and decompose and leave these like nice little pockets of organic matter all over the field. As for the rest of them, I would have to refer to Lee as to what chemicals you would need to spray if you wanted to chemical kill it. But I know also using a roller crimper is also a way that a lot of people terminate their cover crops. So yeah, those are a couple of the different things. What do you think about those? What other questions?
I think that's a good path right there. I still will have to get the approval from my son from the triticale, because he does a lot of research and he probably is going to know it's 50% winter rye and 50%.
But it doesn't get out of.
Yes.
It doesn't get the great growth of the rye does.
Right. So,
We've had some triticale been going out the last several years and pretty impressive. But does what the rye does. It's got a better root system than say wheat does, but you kind of get the best of both worlds.